Regardless of whether you enjoy Yu Suzuki's games or not, every time he seems to create one, they're always like an event because they're hyper stylized. They've got a very they lean into charm and aesthetic and provide some kind of like pizzazz that you just don't get with many other games that are out there. They take chances and sometimes they don't always pay off, but they always provide an experience. Air Twister is his latest game. It came out on Apple Arcade last year and has now been ported to consoles and PC, which launches on the 10th of November. This is one of the most stylistic events that I've ever seen in a rail shooter, probably since Child of Eden, which is one of my favourite games of all time back in the PS3 era. And I've not felt so genuinely wowed and dragged into a magical, Marvel, over-the-top, chaotic experience, quite like Air Twister does. And it's the mixture of the graphics, the gameplay, the music and sound, which is absolutely astounding, and just the way how it pulls everything together in such an odd way. It entrances me and it drew me in, and I've absolutely loved every minute of playing this game. For me, Air Twister is a spiritual successor to Yu Suzuki's Space Harrier series, and I can't get away from mentioning that. I love the Space Harrier series. I've still got the cartridges that I owned for Mega Drive and Master System, and I go back to them regularly because they're great fun to play. Air Twister takes the arcade simplicity of that and plops it in a 2023 setting of being able to exploit the graphics and music of what you can get today to create a really artistic, stylized world to enjoy the basic simplicity of an arcade on rail shooter. Your character moves around the screen to dodge enemy fire, but they also double up as the aim reticule, because what this game borrows from, and Child of Eden and Rez do this particularly well as well, as you move around the screen, say if you've got 4 enemies all at once coming in, if you kind of scroll across them as your character, they auto lock on for 4 shots. And all you do at the end of that is then press the shoot button once to then shoot out just 1 shot. Now you can just spam shoot all the way along, but you're not going to A, score high points because you're not getting any kind of shot combos, but B, you're also going to knacker yourself out because you're going to run out of steam to be able to shoot all of the shots and get rid of everyone all at once. So it's better to use your character to fly around the screen at speed, lock onto 4, 6, 8, 10 different enemies depending on how upgraded your character is, and then just do the one-shot fire and get rid of it. This works particularly well when you get into boss battles, because bosses are humongous and they'll have multiple hit points, and so you'll then be moving around the boss to try and get 4 or 5 of those different hit points together all at once to get one big shot in before you then maybe have to dodge an attack. So it really plays into those boss battles that can be very short or very long depending on how skilled you are as you play through the game. The 12 stages that you go through are unique experiences, and they're beautifully designed and they look gorgeous on the big screen. They're bright, they're colourful, they're a mixture of fantasy, dreamland and like hyper-realised nature environments. So there's like an underwater one, there's one going through a garden. It feels like Alice in Wonderland gone a bit nuts. And the enemies also mix together nature, fantasy, so things like elephants with wings, but then also technology. There's like this diamond shape with an eye in the middle that I swear has been stolen from the No Man's Sky logo. You know, if you've ever watched a No Man's Sky trailer, at the end where like the little pulsating heart eye comes in over the logo at the end? It's that, I swear it is. But they kind of all float in. And because you'll have them come in waves of 4, 6, 8, 10, whatever it is, that then comes back to that whole fluid motion of then gracefully flying over and capturing those enemies, triggering the fire, getting rid of them really quickly, because the longer they stay on the screen, the more fire they'll throw back, which means you then need to get out of the way. So it really requires you to be on the ball, precise, fast, fluid and efficient in how you move around the screen and kill everything. And there's a real... I feel odd saying this, but it feels really graceful. I don't know if this is because it was originally designed for touchscreen, so it's as if like all of the enemies are designed so that you can do like a graceful flick of the finger to try and get rid of them. but the same layouts apply to when you're using an analog stick. So you'll kind of really gracefully like up and down like a little italic flick at the end of writing a word. It's really satisfying. Bosses are really interesting in this game because they contain some of the biggest wow factor moments in the game, but they also, as you upgrade your character, become significantly underpowered and very quick and easy to kill. And it's the only kind of around it is that it doesn't feel like the bosses scale particularly well as you get more and more powerful through the star upgrade system, which I'll get onto in a minute in this review. The other thing I'd say is I felt like this game was leaning into the Darius world because there's a disproportionate amount of bosses that are fish, crabs and sea life. So I was just kind of thinking, is this a nod to the Darius series? I'm not sure, but I enjoyed it and had good fun with it anyway. Outside of the main mode, there's also an arcade mode, which is the same game again, but like with very set base stats for you to try and complete. There's extra special stage mode, which sees you going down like a 3D corridor, almost a bit like the Sonic the Hedgehog special stages, but the camera is like busy panning around everywhere as different enemies are coming from like 360 degrees around you. Really interesting, great extra stage to play. There's Fluffy mode, which sees you, instead of moving in a 3D world, it gets placed onto a 2D plane, and you can't really shoot, you just have to dodge everything and collect stars, and the longer you're able to dodge and move around and survive, the more stars that you collect, which can go towards your upgrades. And there's also Boss Rush mode, and this weird kind of numbers mode, which places between 1 to 36 boxes on the screen, and you have to shoot them in numerical order within a time limit to then satisfy like the conditions, and it keeps putting on like weird things to try and distract you and confuse you. It's an odd mini game. I feel like it's been stolen from a WarioWare title, but hey, it's an extra bonus to be popped in. All of these different challenges and different things that you can do then lean into being able to collect stars or cosmetics. Your character can be changed with loads and loads of different cosmetics, be that their hair, makeup, costume, but also they can unlock different weapons, which have a small difference to the way how the game plays, but not too much. But more importantly, probably, you can upgrade the heart system so that you can have more health, but then also more hit points per life inside those that health as well. So you have like little yellow hearts that are like tiny hits, and then a red heart for the whole life, so you can really beef up your character as they go. Stars also can then be spent on the adventure map, which is where you can find even more cosmetics, lore about the world around you, improve your health and HP there, but also unlock additional like traits and things. So you can unlock a slowdown mode, like for bullet time, but you can also increase the amount of enemies that you can lock onto during one time. And you'll also be able to increase the amount of times that you can use a passive ability, such as a shield, for example. This all means that slowly over time, if you're not able to complete Air Twister immediately straight away, within a few runs you'll be able to, because there's loads of different ways to power up your character across the whole length of the game. And then each power up that you unlock also unlocks lore that you can then read about the world of Air around you, because there's some lovely cutscenes in this game that tries to pull you into this weird and magical and mysterious world. So yeah, it's a really odd, strange, weird affair. The piece de resistance to all of this, and the cherry on the cake, is the absolutely astounding soundtrack that comes with this game. It's a symphonic rock opera soundtrack that sounds a little bit like Freddie Mercury meets David Bowie and a Japanese artist called Ilian that I personally love. The person that made the soundtrack, or the artist called Valencia, has managed to pull together symphonic rock. So you've got like massive strings, huge guitar solos, big epic stadium drums, and then like a weird synth choir will fly in and it will sound like you're off into like Near Automata, and then all of a sudden it will be like, hang on, are we listening to a Queen record? Then there'll be something weird that will sound like it's out of David Bowie's like Dungeons, and you're thinking, where the hell has this gone? And it all compiles together to add this extra layer of fantastical exuberance and oversaturation of senses that when it's combined with the hyper-colorized world that you've got, this is the total antidote to everything that makes games feel generic and bland. Because if you've got greys and blacks and browns, everything's muddy and there's a zombie in there, then it feels like we've treaded that game 50 million times beforehand. I can honestly say with Air Twister that for the many hours that I've spent going through this game, replaying it, getting better, going up the difficulties, unlocking new things, that each time I play it, I feel like I'm being treated to a genuinely interesting and unique experience, even if the fundamental arcade of lock onto things, press a button to shoot is very simple and something that I've been doing for like 30 odd years of my life. So there's something to be said, going right the way back to the beginning of this review, around how Yu Suzuki tries to make experiences, and some of them work, some of them don't. To me, Air Twister totally works. And if you've ever thought about getting into an rail shooter until now, Rez, Child of Eden, and I would now probably say Air Twister are three of the top ones that I would recommend that you can actively go out and buy that are on modern consoles and platforms now. Yeah, you may be able to throw in things like Sin and Punishment, but they're very difficult to get on modern day consoles. So they would be my top three recommendations. I rate Air Twister that highly. Written review will be over on highplanegames.com. I have gone and bought the soundtrack separately and I have zero regrets. It's fantastic and it's camp and it's ridiculous and I love it and I adore it. So, no, same for the game. Take care. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.